War has always been part of human history. But in the ancient world, it was more than just a conflict of steel and strength. It was a gateway to the divine. In many early civilizations, war was seen not just as survival, but as destiny. A cosmic dance between gods and men, fate and fury. Warriors were not just soldiers, they were chosen vessels of divine power. But among all these warriors, there were a few whose rage knew no equal, whose transformation on the battlefield struck terror into friend and foe alike. They were called berserkers, the untamed beasts of the Viking Age. War as a sacred experience. In ancient times, war wasn't merely a political affair. It was spiritual. To fight was to face the gods, or perhaps become one. Among the Norse, battle was both terrifying and sacred. Every clash of axe and shield echoed through the halls of Valhalla, where the souls of the bravest would feast with Odin after death. But the battlefield was no place for the faint of heart. It demanded more than muscle and armor, it required madness or something close to it. That's why rituals were essential. Before battle, warriors would anoint themselves, sing war chants, and sometimes even put on the skins of animals, wolves, bears, or wild cats, to channel their power. This was no costume. It was a transformation. They believed the spirits of the beasts would lend them their strength. And in many cases, something did change within them. The birth of the berserker. From these primal rituals emerged a terrifying figure, the berserker. There is no direct translation for the Old Norse word, berserker. Some believe it means bear shirt, a reference to the bear pelts they wore. Others argue it means bear of shirt, referring to how they charged into battle without armor. But everyone agrees on one thing: berserkers were not ordinary warriors. They belonged to a cult devoted to Odin, the god of war, death, and madness. They trained not only their bodies, but their minds, mastering rituals and meditations that unleashed a state of uncontrollable rage, what the Norse called berserkergang. Once in this trance-like state, they were unstoppable, immune to pain, indifferent to injury, and possessed by fury. Tales of terror and bravery. The legends of the berserkers were passed down in sagas and poems, their exploits recorded in awestruck tones. One such tale, written around the year 1200, described berserkers who bit the edges of their own shields to control their bloodlust before a fight. They are said to have felt no pain, to have endured wounds that would kill other men. Their skin became so tough that weapons bounced off. And in some cases, they fought without armor, relying only on raw power and a transfueled resistance to injury. One of the most famous accounts comes from the Battle of Stamford Bridge in 1066. A lone berserker held a narrow wooden bridge against the entire English army, wielding a massive axe. He is said to have killed over 40 men single-handedly before being taken down, only after a soldier floated underneath the bridge and stabbed him from below. His sacrifice bought King Harald Hardrada and his forces precious time to retreat. Strategy and superstition. The berserkers weren't just reckless wild men, they were strategic weapons. Norse kings used them in shock assaults, sending them charging first into the enemy's shield wall to break formation. Or they hid them in the rear ranks, springing them at the perfect moment to cause confusion and chaos. But their presence on the battlefield was a double-edged sword. Their uncontrollable rage sometimes turned inward. They would lash out at friend and foe alike, killing companions in blind fury. Even fellow Norse warriors were wary of them. They avoided them off the battlefield, afraid that even in times of peace, berserkers might erupt into violence. Some berserkers found work as bodyguards for kings and nobles, their intimidating presence a powerful deterrent to assassination or rebellion. Madness, myth, and mystery. But the life of a berserker was rarely long. Their ferocity made them deadly, but also vulnerable. When their rage failed to break the enemy, they were often the first to die. And off the battlefield, many struggled with mental instability. The line between man and beast blurred. They became unpredictable, prone to sudden violence, and unfit for daily life. Some legends say that the berserkers who withdrew to the forests eventually became beasts themselves, transforming into bears or wolves, cursed to wander the wild forever. The source of their madness remains debated. Some scholars suggest they used hallucinogenic mushrooms or fermented drinks to induce their berserker state. Others believe they entered a self-induced trance, a form of controlled psychosis developed through ritual and repetition. Whatever the cause, their transformation was real and terrifying. Even Christian monks, upon witnessing berserkers, wrote that they were possessed by demons. Legacy of the Berserkers. Though the age of the Vikings ended long ago, the legend of the Berserker never died. They have been immortalized in literature, video games, fantasy stories, films, and folklore, as symbols of uncontrollable rage, of divine madness, and of raw, primal power. To this day, the word berserk is used to describe someone who has lost control in a violent outburst. But behind the legend lies something deeper, a glimpse into the warrior's soul, into a time when battle was sacred, when rage was divine, and when some men dared to walk the line between human and beast. The berserkers were not heroes. They were not villains. They were forces of nature, manifestations of chaos shaped into flesh. They remind us of what we're capable of when we abandon fear and surrender to fury. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure to subscribe for more fascinating, exciting content. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next adventure.